StreamYard.
Oh, we're live.
We are live. We are live. I'm so excited to be here today. I'm going to give our audience a few minutes to jump on in. But welcome to everyone watching on my YouTube, my Facebook, or LinkedIn. I've got a really special guest that I am going to introduce shortly, but come on into the room. I am so excited to be here. Drop me your name or a thumbs up or something to let me know when you are coming in, and we're going to get started in a few minutes. But Chanel, let me just go ahead on the record. Like when we first met for your podcast, I noticed both of us showed up in brand, even though nobody was looking at us. Like I think that's just such a strong commitment to being in brand without it feeling like you're forcing the show up, right? Like on any given day, you will catch me in hot pink, white, or black. I don't know if that's your truth too, but like
You know what? I'm not a bright colored person unless I'm going to a networking event.
Yep.
But I'll share the story really quickly about my red lipstick. So for most people who know or see me on LinkedIn or anywhere, I'm almost always in red lipstick. And it started a few years back, I think as a form of rebellion, partially. And also because I was trying to figure out, like, I'm not really drawn to bright colors. And I think that year particularly, it was like neon pink, lime green, highlighter yellow. And it just wasn't my vibe, right? I just never really resonated with me. And also neon colors don't look good on me. So I was like, well, how do I do something? Yeah. And I have found that the red lipstick does the trick every time. I enjoy it. It's easy. I can take it with me anywhere. And we had joked. I said I can build my outfit around the red lipstick. I don't always wear red lipstick, but I would say like 90% of the time, if I'm putting on a lipstick, my go-to is red. I'm not really into the nude. I tried that for a while.
Yeah.
Just doesn't do it for me. But no. But this brings me joy.
I love that. That brings you joy. Yeah. So like I said, it's so important to own whatever your brand is, and it should bring you joy. It shouldn't feel like something you feel like you're forcing on yourself. And so, yeah, when you looked exactly like you, but on camera, even though we couldn't, I was like, this is the message, right? Like, you get to look the part all the time and feel good about it. Yeah. Like I said, I try red lip. I will only wear red lip when I'm wearing black or white. But if I have on hot pink, I always go for a nude lip. And so I float between my two lip colors. And mine was rebellion too. I was wearing purple lipstick for quite a while. I was about a purple lip. And
what was that MAC one? Did you wear the MAC pink one? I can't remember. The purple one. What was it called?
It was the MAC pink.
Oh my God! And now I have to look it up because we all went through that same MAC purple lipstick era. And hello to everyone who is watching. We're giving folks a chance to hop in the room. But I think, what was that lipstick called? Now I'm gonna have to look it up.
I know it was something enigmatic too. It was like a real
yeah. We're from that era. So I just think, again, once you find something you like, stick with it. And you brought up a very good point, and I'm sure we'll dig deeper into this. But like showing up, like don't be somebody on social media who you're not in real life, right? So if you're not a dress up person, don't dress up online. If you're not a casual person, don't be casual online. Because when people get on that sales call, and when people get on that coaching call, and they're like, that's not what I signed up for. You may not feel like, okay, let's go back. And we're not going to start here, but we're taught that looks shouldn't matter and like that type of thing. And this is not that, right? Like, we're not trying to like ask you to change your personhood or anything like that, but think about like how you show up as like an inclusivity type of thing, and consistency and continuity and discipline, right? Because when people, especially when you're a service provider, you talk about branding, but like on the sales side, what are they buying, right? So if you curse like a sailor, curse like a sailor, right? If you don't curse like a sailor, don't curse like a sailor, because people expect that from you all the time. And I got asked this the other day, talking about like how people show up. this person asked me like, well, should I like, sometimes I want to curse on my, like my copy on my content. I said, okay, I hear that. And my follow-up to that was, if you start cursing today, then they're going to expect you to curse all the time. And if you decide to stop cursing, right, then you have to make a formal announcement for that. You got to explain why you came to that point. And then you have to deliberately, like slowly digress away from that, right? Because the thing about a rebrand is that most people try to do a hard rebrand. They want everybody to wake up tomorrow and see them differently. But there's a sweet spot, I like to call like a soft rebrand, where you can, you know, dilute it and then just start to build it up as something else, right? And so when you talk about like swearing, for example, my thing is like, don't curse if you don't curse, right? So I curse privately, some, but it's not sustainable for me because I don't really know what I would write on LinkedIn that would require that I curse consistently, because that's not how I communicate, right? I think you have to know that about yourself.
I totally agree. I was talking to a young lady, and I think it's about training people on your brand is what you're telling. And that's what I tell everyone. I said, brand positioning is not just about where you show up, but it's also about what you're training people to recognize. If, for your example, if you want to be recognized for dropping that F-bomb, that's great for you, as long as it's built inside the core of what you do and you're not just cursing just for attention sake. But I was partnering with, I was thinking about partnering with a lady who does branding. And she was like, oh, you know, how would you like 30,000 followers? And I was like, well, of course, everyone wants increased follower count. But then I started asking her questions about her brand and she couldn't answer it. And so I'm thinking, well, you've got 30,000 followers, but you never trained them that you were going to sell them something. And so I ended up having to coach her. And I said, I forgot, at the time, I had like 1,500 followers, but I had already trained them that eventually I was going to offer you something, give you a choice to work with me or whatever. So it wasn't sticker shock. And when she finally decided to make those people an offer, they went cold. Her audience went cold on her. And she ended up having to reformat her entire business. And I said, well, that's a part of positioning. Like, you've got to position yourself as someone who's in business, not just I'm trying to get some followers.
Community, right? Like what you just described is community. And I say this all the time, followers don't equal funds. And I'm less concerned about how many followers you have and more concerned about like the deliberate actions you've taken to create a community. What is community? It's a group of people who relate to one another, right?
Yep.
So if you live in an affluent neighborhood, bare minimum, the relatability is like financial. I can understand what you may or may not be experiencing because you and I have matching Rolls Royces and we shop at the same stores, and the connectedness that we share may, you know, seem superficial because it's financial, but it's deeper than that. Right. We like the social mores, the hyperbole, the jokes, the mixture, like the dichotomy between personhood and lifestyle. It's complementary. There's just some barriers that you don't have to overcome. And so when you think about creating a community on LinkedIn and you think about sales, right? And you think about what that translates to for you, a lot of times what people miss is that you shouldn't seek followers. You shouldn't seek an audience. You should seek a community. Who are the people who I can benefit from having in my ecosystem, right? And then separately, who are the people who can benefit from me? So there has to always be a value add. And I know people always say, like, what's your I help statement? Baby, what's your value proposition? When people come to you, they want to work with you. What is it? What are people getting? What can people expect to learn from you? And you've got to make that plain and reinforce it in a way that is just, you know, it enters the room before you do. And I think you were the person who said this, like, what do you want people to say about you when you're not in the room?
When you're not in the room.
And that has to be clear, right?
Yeah. What do you want to be known for? And I think we're going to go ahead and for real get started. So good morning, everybody. Again, thank you so much for joining us. I have the lovely Chanel Rose here. She is a sales and visibility expert that I met actually on LinkedIn. Talk about building your ecosystem. That's one of my favorite words. And I thought, who better then a sister in sales to talk about what it means to create some urgency in your sales as we enter to Q4, because Q4 starts in less than 7 days. And so when we think about our revenue generating activities, and I know nobody wants to talk about those words, but like if you are not spending time doing revenue generating activity right now, then your Q4 will suffer. And
Yeah.
one of the best ways that I found to generate revenue when the market, quote unquote, market is pulling back is through being a paid professional speaker. And a lot of times people say, Sybil, how did you become a speaker? I said, because I told people I speak. And it was really that easy, right? Because I think people think there's like this big leap into speaking. I had to declare that I was going to be known as a speaker. And I didn't know what that meant, but I knew I needed to generate revenue and generate it quickly. And so when I was talking to some other experts and they were like, oh, it takes about a year to get your speaking business off the ground, I said, I don't have a year. I have 90 days. And so I took my very first paid speaking engagement within 76 days. I was like, praise God. It did not take the whole 90.
Right.
But I was clumsy in my sales process because I knew I was going to speak, but I didn't have those systems. So I would love for you to talk about just systematizing sales and why that is such an invaluable skill set for people to have as they go into Q4.
Ooh, thank you. Thank you. You couldn't have thrown me the ball and cleared the court better. You might as well have put me a ladder so I could just touch the hoop, okay? So I guess I'm gonna start maybe from like an informed consumer perspective. So you get on LinkedIn, you're searching for a culture consultant, and a lot of people will sell you marketing. And you and I have had a lot of really important conversations around understanding the difference between marketing and sales and people who do sales marketing, because there's a key difference. The key difference is a lot of people can tell you branding, marketing, that kind of thing, but they fall short of telling you, how the heck do I sell this thing? Yep. And so you said it, sales is a system, it's a process, it's a habit. You are deliberately selling every day, but I want to be very mindful and tell you that there's a difference between pitching, right? All the things that you think about sales that you hate are pieces of process that you don't really understand, right? Mm-hmm. So pitch slapping is something that happens on LinkedIn all the time. And at least once a week, somebody's like, oh my God, a former person tried to sell me something in my DMs without getting to know me. And they're just like tightly wound and frustrated by feeling invisible in the process, and people not getting to know them, understanding what their needs, wants, and desires are. And I mean, I have this conversation with people all the time. It's about, quite frankly, starting from the top. So before I decide I want to connect with someone, I think about like, okay, what is this person talking about, right? I'll go on their page, I'll look really quickly, and I have a metric, right? Like, so it's not my ideal client profile as much as it is like, what is the upfront vibe that I'm getting from this person? And I look for continuity. So I want to know that you're not all over the place, right? And if you are, why are you all over the place? Like, what is it that's happening? And so I'll connect with people by sheer going through a few of their posts. And I say, okay, this is like around the age range of folks I really vibe well with. Oh, I'm a city girl, right? I don't exclude people who don't live in cities, but I'm a city girl.
Right.
I've lived all over. I'm well traveled. You know, I have my education. I have an unlimited amount of certifications at this point. So I'm looking for these key data points. So everybody in my ecosystem, in my community of 6,200 people, has, at least on the surface, hit those data points, right? Because I know who I want to work with. And from a very statistical standpoint, I know who I can benefit the most. I know where people are in their career where I can make the maximum amount of impact. So the first piece is, a lot of people sell you passion and joy. Babe, I'm not passionate about this most days. I'm literally on autopilot, right? But what brings me joy is that I understand my investment in my clients is seeing them do well. So as much as you have a passion, desire to be wealthy, I share that same passion. And all you do, my ego is really, really fed because you prove me right. You go do the things and you get the results. So intrinsically, what I absorb from my ability to work with my clients is that I know what's in it for me. So that first thing is understanding what the data is you're looking to get. The second thing is that every day, you should be prospecting every day. On LinkedIn, there's millions of people on here who are active every day. Who are those people who you want to do business with? And maybe it's somebody who you want to pay. Maybe you're looking for a service. And what I do is some of my time, like if we break it down by hour, so now 15 minutes prospecting. So who are people who I think I want to do business with? I save those profiles, right? I might go in, comment, do a little thing, but first I save them. I spend 15 minutes of, okay, these are my clients. Who are the kind of people who they would benefit from? So how can I create relationships that benefit my clients? So then the next 15 minutes is saying, okay, my clients want to start speaking at associations, but these are my client skill sets. Who are the people who I can connect with that might make it easier for an introduction for them? Then I spend 15 minutes nurturing current relationships. So who I've been talking to for a while, okay, I like Sybil. Let me just flat out ask Sybil, hey, I noticed that you aren't doing this thing and that could be generating revenue. Can we hop on a call? I'd love to see if I can help. And that's been that last 15 minutes, that same 15 minutes of prospecting people, starting conversations. So every day, I am going through some iteration of those things. You have to have a process that is deliberately attracting those same things. My goal is to have, about 5 to 7 sales calls a week right now. My conversion rate is pretty good. I'm not in my high volume era. Next month though, right? So coming up, that will increase. I will have a lower tier offer. So I'll be selling a little bit differently, but every day, 7 days a week, even if you're bored, right? You should be selling. And so sometimes selling is getting on Sybil's comments and posting, going and, sometimes selling is telling somebody, hey, I saw this job. You mentioned you were looking for a job. Here you go. Sometimes selling is me flat out saying, hey, Sybil, you're not doing so-and-so. I can help. Sometimes selling is me telling somebody, hey, I wouldn't be a good fit. I know that people think sales is like getting sprayed by a perfume person at Macy's, but sales is literally, like you said, it's a deliberate set of habits that allow you to maximize impact on your desired customer.
In other words, sales is service, because everything you just said is how can I serve? How can I serve? How can I serve? How can I serve? And I tell people every time I post, I call it my I care enough content. Like I care enough about your success that I am going to put this thing into the universe and hopefully it will reach the eyes of the people who need to see it on whatever particular day that is. And I think so often people think it is this like aggressive approach in the DMs when it's quite the opposite. Great question. Who is here with us today? Because Chanel and I could do this all day. So if you are here, drop us a line. Tell us good morning. Tell us good morning. Tell us what your burning questions are about building sales in Q4. Y'all, look, she is here to stress test my expertise, and I'm here to stress test her. So
you're so funny. I know I'm looking down at the phone trying to comment simultaneously. Somebody said it's all about relationship building. Julia, hey Julia, you're so right. Yes, everything about this business and sales is relationships. And I wrote a post about this yesterday about how it's like all about relating, right? And what do people relate to you? And, Sybil will give us a lot of details about the brand side of it. But speaking specifically for me, when I think about relatability, I think, how can I keep myself relatable, right? What does that mean? I can walk circles around people when it comes to things like the psychology of selling, the neuroscience of behavioral triggers, what is behavioral economics, and I will bore y'all into oblivion and no one would ever talk to me again, right? But I love that stuff. And so when people ask me, what is my sales system based on, I tell them the psychology of selling, behavioral economics, and the neuroscience, like literally, really quickly, I'm going to show y'all how I can bore y'all. Here we go. The amygdala is the oldest part of the brain. So one of the things that I've been looking up from a sales perspective is how do people begin to understand their behaviors? And the amygdala is the first part of your brain that develops. So when you're in your mommy's belly, the first thing, how you make decisions is the amygdala. So the frontal lobe is the part that develops the longest, right? So it's like when people say you don't have a fully developed frontal lobe, you don't get that sense of like restrictedness. So you have more risk, less risk aversion, right?
Right.
You're like, why am I telling you this? Because when people talk about how they sell and how they buy and what they do, and for example, how you create relationships, that's deeply rooted and something that you didn't even have a say so in. And so when I work with people and I have conversations with them, I'm listening to you because I care, but I'm listening to the deeper things that you say, like the trigger words that show up, because I don't ever want to put you in a position where you're feeling pressured, overwhelmed, frustrated, unseen, insecure, not operating from a place of confidence. And so for me, the relationship factors, I'm kind enough to listen to the things you're saying and how you're saying them. From a branding perspective, because we got two really good comments. But from a branding perspective, how do you build relationships?
Yeah. So from a branding perspective, I tell people, and I hate the cliche, know who you are, because most people are not that self-aware, right? Like having that level of awareness of who you are only comes from other people showing you what they think about you. And then you have to be in agreement with what they are saying. And that's the hard part of building that relationship, is understanding your relationship with yourself and forming those agreements with yourself so that you can equally form good agreements with other people. And one of the challenges that I've seen with so many experts and women who have transitioned in and out of corporate is we are so used to other people imposing on us what we should think about ourselves that we never find the words to give to people to say, no, actually, this is my truth. This is my affirmation. This is my thing. And that goes back to what I talked about last week of like, how clear are you on you so that when you talk, it is cohesive, it's consistent, it makes sense. And it's the same type of relationship you're going to be building anyway. Like if I lived in Chicago, chances are I would have ran into you anyway because we have that same level of energy. So if you think, is this somebody I would want to be around outside of the interwebs? Well, then yes, I want to meet you anyway, regardless of whether or not we end up in partnership or in a financial relationship. I just think you're a really good person and I want to be in the same vibrational space that you were taking up. So I think it's really important when you're looking at that brand position, think about not the you that other people say you are, but like the you know you are. And going real deep, I wrote a post yesterday about just feeling convicted because I was telling women, go speak, go speak, go speak. And in full transparency, I hadn't taken the stage in the last couple of months because I was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to talk about next. And I think it's so important that my community knows, because I'm a God follower, I'm not going to move before God says move, because I already know what kind of foolishness that results in, right? And so finally, yesterday, God gave me a new message. And he said, okay, this is the new message. Go speak on this. But I think there's, right, like even that's a component. My clients who work with me know I'm going to pray with you. I'm going to say, what does God say? Because you don't want a good idea. You want a God idea, right? Like I don't dabble in good ideas. What vision did you get? Let's go do that. And that's how you shape your brand.
Yeah, I agree with that. So somebody said, I think one of the challenges is staying focused on relationships versus selling. Here's the thing. Why is there a difference? If I can position, so think about selling as adding value, right? Yep. How do I add value? If you constantly show up ready to give value, you can be selling people into your program. You could be selling people into your process. You could be selling people into your ecosystem, your environment, your community. But like, if you tell me I only want to focus on my speaking business this year, I can sell them on simple by saying, hey, I know one who's excellent at this. She has a program. It's 90 days. It's really designed to help you get your signature talk. It's designed to help you get clear about what you want to speak of. And it's also designed to help you find the right rooms to be in. And she even will help you inside of her program get your first speaking gig. Like, that is the commitment level that she has for you to help your business be successful, right? I just sold you on Sybil. Whether or not you choose to buy with Sybil doesn't matter. My relationship value add is that I will find a resource that makes sense for you where you are. And sometimes that means signing up with me. Sometimes that means signing up with Sybil, right? And that's not because she's like, oh, I'll give you a commission or anything like that. It's because that's not the case. I just know that what she does is good. And so I send them referrals simply because I trust and understand her value. And I have no problems with leveraging my own trust and value in her process for other people. So the relationship part of it is that you should be selling every day. But remember, sales is not just going to be just pitching. Should you be pitching every day? I mean, yes. But before you can get to a point to have people to pitch to, what is your community like? If you have 3,000 people on LinkedIn, of those 3,000 people, how many of those people can you positively impact?
Right.
That's prospecting, right? So that's a sales activity. The next thing you can say is, like, of those 3,000 people, let's say it's 300 of them. Now you overwhelmed and you hiding under your desk, because how you go from no leads to 300 leads? Cool, right? Now those people are in a system. Okay, we call that a CRM, because I know somebody mentioned, Stacy said she wants to talk more about systems. Yep. So my favorite system for customer relationship manager is Pipedrive. So now those 300 people now have a home in Pipedrive. Now you're saying, okay, I'll put all these people on Pipedrive. Now what? The systematic approach for that is to introduce yourself. Hey, Sybil. Hey, Stacy, how are you? My name is Chanel Rose. I saw your profile on LinkedIn. I'd love to, connect with you and see if there's any opportunity to add value, see if there's synergy. That's it. So I asked Stacy, or I believe the other person's name was Julia. How long have you been in business? What's working really well for you now, right now? What are some challenges you're experiencing? What are some of your goals? I would love to see how I can help. So I always frame it as like, how can I help? I don't come into the room pretending I want to be your best friend. I like you. We can be friends, right? Like, I love friendship. I love camaraderie. I'm a community-centered person, but I'm a systematic person. So I don't want to be in relationships with anybody where I can't add value, who can't add value to me. Yeah. That it's that serious to me, because relatability is understanding. Remember, at the beginning, we talked about how if we all live in an area where we have matching Rolls Royces and your kids go to school with my kids, there's some inherent ethos that exists between us where I'm going to come to you as a member of my community before I go looking for other people. So I'm going to post on LinkedIn and say, hey, I'm looking for, women named Julia who I want to do business with. Do you know anybody who might need sales help? Random, right? But I'm going to go on my community and ask them first. You all get first dibs. And so when it comes to like the systemization, getting back to your CRM, you're coming through and you're reaching out, right? If I think the Sybil might benefit from me, I'm going to have a conversation with her. And you just start that relationship management part. That last piece about systems that I really invest in is that every single day, right? I have a team of people who do the same thing every day. Sybil knows, like, she met one of my assistants, Christine. Christine has a very specific process, a piece of the process. Christine only does one or two things every day. And that's it. I don't have her doing things that she's not good at. So when it comes to systems, I know that it's popular right now for people to tell you just do these all-inclusive systems. Here's my hot take. Maybe you have too many systems. Maybe you don't have enough systems, right? But I really wholeheartedly believe that when it comes to systemization, you need a process. You need a process for those systems to work. I mean, Sybil and I had a conversation about automations yesterday. Yep. And she was describing to me this automation, and I'm invested. And I was like, I have no idea what you're saying. Like, I get what you're saying, but I don't understand why you're there. Because the truth of the matter is, systems should match where you are. So in the beginning, I don't really recommend a whole lot of automations to people, because you don't even know how to sell. You don't even know who you like working with. You don't even know any of the things, right? So why am I going to sell you into these big old clunky systems that are supposed to give you data that you don't even have enough people to pull data from? The data is you getting on these sales calls, is you getting on these networking calls, is you getting on these coffee chats and having these very real conversations with people about their needs, wants, and desires. Now, let's say for Julia, right? Because I think it was it was Julia who said that she wants to know more about systems.
Yeah.
Really quickly, I know I'm like talking a lot, but when it comes to sales systems, I want you to lean more into, and I guess maybe you could tell me where you are in your business, because systems for me, right? I have automations. I write all my emails once a month. I sit down and I write every email I intend to send. If you don't get an email from me that month because I didn't get around to sending it, I will sit down and write every email that I want to go out, and I just set them up so that they can go out. I don't do any of the hand holding of my email system. And I always know when an email went out, when people are responding back to the email, I'm like, what? And I forget that I wrote this email 2 weeks ago. It's a part of the process. So for me, I have to do all that in one day. I am not a breadcrumb content creator. That's just not how my mental equity goes. So I've systemized the process where I can just write all my emails. Most of my posts, now social media posts, they usually come morning of. You have to figure out what works for you. And in terms of like scheduling posts, I just use LinkedIn. Does that answer your question, Julia? Or what kind of system specifically did you want to discuss?
Yeah, I think that was Stacy.
Was it
And I
Stacey?
will also, I think it was Stacy, but
Sorry.
the other thing, it's okay. Yeah, the other
Sorry.
thing I will say, even as you are considering growing as a speaker, there's a system to that. I think, like I said earlier, I was a little haphazard when I first started my speaking business because I was like, oh, right, this is a business. And one of the things that I tell people is like, you need to study the industry that you intend to be a part of. And I don't think enough of us spend enough time understanding that's also a positioning and sales tactic is study that industry, study the gaps in that industry, and then make sure that you are filling a true need and you're not just doing what you feel like doing because you feel like doing it. Like there was a true need to get more women on stage when I looked at the speaking industry, which is a multi-billion-dollar industry, billion B, and only about 20% of the speaking industry is women. And I'm just like, boom, this is a need. I can literally teach women the systems that I use to get myself paid to speak and make sure that they understand how to build this inside the content they're already creating, the systems they're already using, the coaching or consulting they're already doing. So that way it doesn't feel additive. It feels like you're maximizing and multiplying all your efforts. But it is a system to go out there and say every day, to your earlier point, Chanel, like every day I do 10 outreaches to either event planners or to speakers who have spoken on stages that I want to be on. So I can say, hey, oh, Chanel, I saw you spoke at blah, 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 Women's and Sales Summit. Let me know what your experience was like for that. Because the other thing that people don't talk about, and I'll talk about this like in the cohort, but like the other side of speaking is there might be some stages. If Chanel said, Sybil, they didn't pay me on time, the event planner was blah, 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 blah. Thank you for letting me know.
Yeah.
This might not be in alignment with, right? It's also about educating yourself continuously on that craft that you're trying to build. And so looking at tracking how you're building that, and I will tell people all the time, decision makers still want to pick up the phone. I know a lot of us are fearful of a phone call, but I have booked more speaking engagements by picking up the phone than I have sending an email.
Oh, you hit the nail on the head. So I just read somebody's comment. Okay, I'll check it out. Thank you. Somebody said they sent me a connection request. So the first thing I would say is, yes, you should absolutely be. Remember, we talked about this before, privately, how you have to complete the circle, right? Like the relationships can be one-dimensional. Sure, you can just build your audience of people who you only want to do business with, who you want to sell to. Got it, right? But the reciprocity doesn't always exist. And so what happens with a lot of people is that they get through a cohort. Fine example. We talked about systems, Stacy. So let's start here. You'll go to a program and they'll tell you how to launch, right? And they'll tell you all like the high level things, how to launch. And it what always happens to people is then they're like, well, how do I sell now? Like I've created this cohort, right? And I've got people I've built people into my cohort. How on earth did I keep selling this thing? I told people it starts November 15th. And I'm building up to November 15th. I'm tired. how do I continue to sell even though I've told these people this date, right? So there's a difference between launching and selling, right? So launching is a marketing strategy. Once you launch, though, that program can peacefully coexist. So one of the things that I teach, and I'll give this away to you all, is like dynamic onboarding. So you can say, okay, every week people are starting at a certain point. So if you have an 8-week program, that obviously that first week everybody starts the same. Somebody starts late, you can put them in the second track. You can split people up into tracks. And so literally every 8 weeks you'd have a clean slate, but every 8 weeks you'd also have some intersectionality, right? So people on week 1, you know, let's say you do like you guys meet twice a month. So you know that week 1 and week 3 are the same people. Week 2 and week 4 are the same people. So by week 8, with everybody, those first few people are starting to fall off, then that'll become a new week 1 for somebody else. And so you're constantly onboarding people and you're selling them into the program, right? You sell the same thing. Your launch date is your launch date. All that says is that, like, when you launch, for example, you will be aggressively selling for 2 weeks. And the reason why launching works is because if you flip it, right, nobody's showing up and going live 3 to 5 days in a row. You're taking 5 weeks of marketing and putting it into 5 days. So if you do a 10-day launch, that's 10 weeks, right? So all the people who you see who have these really big launches and these really big numbers, it literally works because they're squeezing the effort you would put over a quarter into a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean, though, that you stop selling. So when it comes to systemization, I think it's, again, understanding your marketing initiatives that match your sales goals. And the second thing, and this is probably the most heartbreaking thing I experience with folks, is they will launch, don't hit their numbers, and be like, I'm not going to do this again. Well, if the goal is $10,000, you made $3,000, hello, we do it again until we get to $10,000. Maybe the second time you get $7,000. Do it again until you get to $10,000. The goal never changes. You only ever change the goal when you achieve it. So you keep going, you keep reinventing, you keep developing and evolving. And so Stacey said, I'm 2 years in, have regular networking calls and solid relationships. Need to be better about tracking the data of what specifically is working. Okay. So I'm going to go on Stacey's. I'm going to see if I can go on Stacey's page. And I love to do this in real time. So if you be patient with me, I'm going to see if I can find Stacey's page. Okay. So Stacey is a copywriter and brand messaging strategist for purpose-driven brands. Do the words on your website, do your selling for you. Okay. So what I would say is, you're a copywriter. Who do you typically work with? So the first question would be, if you've been doing sales, right? Who loves to do business with you? And you got to get fine details. So how old are they? Based on looks. This is your internal data, right? So you can do ranges. So let's say they're between 35 to 50. That's fine, right? Nobody's offended. And then we're gonna get really granular. What is their sex, right? What is their typical location? What is their occupation? And then I'm going to, if they are doctors in Houston, for example, what's the average income of a doctor in Houston? You need to know those things. So that's the details. And then you can start to say, well, if they are doctors in Houston, when are doctors typically more busy? You can look up that data and somebody will tell you when they're the busiest. Okay. So you need to better understand the behaviors of your target audience and the people who have actually converted. Now, ask yourself, if I've been working with, I'm just using, doctors in Houston, but I really would prefer to work with doctors in Dallas. What do I need to do to shift that perspective? Right? So to understand what's working, you have to have a clear result that you're providing for people. And it sounds like you do copy for websites. So how many people have received an increase in sales based on working with you? And what has been that conversion rate? So is it 2x, 3x, 1x? Were they not getting people anymore? Is websites what makes sense for your business? Should it be LinkedIn? Should it be TikTok? Should it be where do you feel like you can provide the most good? Should it be email? And it sounds like you are a revenue driver. So what has been the actual income that people have received from you? And in the length of time, does that make sense? Do you need to increase the amount of time? So maybe your program is 3 months, and people are making $5, but if they work with you on 6 months, they will make $20. So adjusting the time frame for how you do business, and those are the kind of things you check. Like, this is the goal we set. Proportionally, this is how close we got to goal. This is how much we got over goal. What would I need to change to increase the outcome for the client without increasing my work, right?
That's right.
Do you have anything to add, Sybil, about like perspective?
Yeah, so I love that she's got really good engagement on her LinkedIn. And the other thing that I will say is a miss that I see so many people do up here, y'all shooting these shots today for all y'all, is you can earn money from a poll. I have gotten clients from polls. And Stacey, I saw you just did a poll. Your action step, you wanted, because you said you need to be better about tracking data. Your action step after you did that poll should have been to send somebody something. That's how you put them into your funnel, your top of your funnel. So I have literally made thousands of dollars off of one poll, because the very next thing I did was every single person who replied to me, I sent them a DM specific to whatever their comment was in the poll. So somebody said, oh my gosh, the question you asked was blah. And they said brand strategy. I had a one sheet on brand strategy. And then I said, book a call with me if you want help with this. And literally, it's those softer actions that you can, again, start to track, but it also helps you develop those relationships and continue to nurture those relationships without it feeling like a hard sell. So it was not a hard sell, but that one poll made me several $1,000s, because I was like, boom, this is another type of content that can be immediately monetized. And so I would say, for every single 56 people that 56, votes that you just did, I need you to follow up with the not at all people. Hey, why not? The maybe people, send them a maybe kind of document. The probably people, get a document. And the where do I sign up? You should be booking 20-minute calls with them. Yeah. And really being intentional with those types of actions. You also should be systematizing, but a lot of people don't think about that as this is also your brand. Remember the lady who I said 30,000 followers? She wasn't doing those things, right? Yeah. Like,
and polls are powerful. So I would push it a step further, right? So don't send them a document. I would say, let's go, because I see that you get pretty good engagement. You just did this a day ago. You got 56 votes and 46 comments, right? And so I would comb through the comments. People give you explanations, right? I say maybe only because I'm already inundated with stuff to do and massive amount of content ideas, but I picked where do I sign out to hear your ideas in person, right? Yeah. Here's how I would pivot with Susie. I would slide so deeply into Susie's DMs, and I would say, Susie, you said you're inundated with stuff. What kind of stuff is keeping you from shining through your content? Because she's a website and online content writer too. So what is the stuff that she has? And you can add immediate value. And you can say, Stacey, if you're inundated with like trying to figure out how you systemize your sales, reach out to Chanel. Chanel loves systems and sales processes, and she can help you go through and take what you do, and she can find you automation. She can find you people to take things off your plate, including navigating how to hire a team, right? And I see that you're a content writer, but you would love to do more speaking on stages. Sybil's a great person for that. That is how you can convert a Susie, because you've proven without selling her anything that you can add value to her life by just allowing her to continue to do what she does great. And just by saying, what are the things you want to take off your plate? And you can just message her. And to the rest of the people who comment on your poll, like she said, those first people, I would say something to, where do I sign up? I would say, hey, Chanel, you said, where do I sign up? Absolutely. I have time I have time anytime between now and Friday. When are you free to hop on a call? Yep. Do you have time Thursday or Friday afternoon, right? And let the morning, whatever, right? They say, sure, I'm free this afternoon. If you're free, hop on that call. And on that call, you can say, well, what's working really well? And you have to have a system. And Stacey, I'm going to reach out to you so you can have a call so that we can figure out like what's going on inside of your call so you can close on the call and close faster. But simply put, I ask the same questions every single sales call, almost in the same order. The reason why is because I know exactly how to start from the beginning and get to the end to better understand if I can help people or not. And so if you're networking, you have a community and you aren't converting, I would argue that you are just not asking questions that are comfortable enough for you to close. Like I was telling Sybil yesterday, telling all your business, right? Because you are like this, you are an excellent networker. And we talked about like converting people to sales. And I flat out said, if you're talking to somebody, why haven't you said, hey, Chanel, you're doing all these great things and this is how you monetize your brand. I love it, but why aren't you doing any speaking? When's the last time you've been on a stage? And then when they tell you why they are not, you can say, oh, that's something I can help with. I'd love to learn more about what excites you about public speaking. Can we hop on a call? Get to the point, because you have this service and you have this thing and you can't continue to be selfish about it. You can't continue to hoard it to yourself. You can't continue to be, quite frankly, discriminatory, right? By deciding who can and can't do things based on what you think you know about people. That's the definition of discrimination, right? You have to be literally deliberate about understanding that you have to impact as many people as possible because they need it, deserve it, and they want it. And so how you remove that, and I'm not talking about like the hot button. I'm just saying, like, don't assume people do or don't want something because they haven't told you they want it. Sometimes they don't even know that it's available to them. So the kindest, least selfish path of least resistance in doing business with people is one, systemizing your approach, and two, saying, Sybil, I have something I feel like can help you. Can I help you create your program? Can I help you systemize your approach? Sybil and I had a conversation yesterday about her cohort and what she was doing to sell it. And I was like, I don't know if that's going to work. Have you considered this thing, right? And like through our conversation, I was like, maybe not. Like, or I'm excited about this thing, or what about this thing brings you joy? And I'm listening to like the inflections of her voice go up and down and up and down. And at some point I was like, just do that thing. Money should be easy. You know, making money should be easy. And if you're at 2 years in your business, Stacey, and I'll tell you, this is somebody who has been an entrepreneur for a very long time. Year 2 is literally your stabilizing year. So what you do this year will impact how you get to year 5. And this is like your structure framework year, and getting really serious about that piece, the systemization, you're exactly where you should be to excel past whatever financial goals you have. But this is that point where you decide how you want to show up for people. And same thing with Sybil, because you're in year 2, right? Year 2 as well, right? This that year, y'all. This is framework year. This is methodology year. This is systemization year. And speaking of your cohort, can you tell me a little bit more? Because I don't think that people feel like speaking can be for them if they haven't, I mean, they're not Oprah child. They don't feel like they have it. Can you describe what the different type of stages there literally are and like how people can start to pursue that?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So my cohort is all about helping people monetize what you're already doing. And you can get paid to speak. One question, and y'all take this from me. When somebody asks you how long you have been speaking, I need you to state your age minus 1 year. People say, Sybil, how long have you been speaking? 40 years. Because no, in your gig, but we underestimate our expertise. We undervalue our expertise. Now, the right question is, how long have you been speaking about this topic? Then I'm going to give you the 8-year, 10-year, 15-year answer. But if somebody says, how long have you been speaking? You get to state your age minus 1 because that's how long you've been speaking. And not only does that help you affirm your voice, but it helps you prepare to take stages when people try to devalue you based off of what they think you know. And so that's what the cohort is all about, is really just helping women figure out what stage their voice belongs on and how fast they can get there. Because even entry-level speakers are earning $2,500 per speaking engagement. Now, if you just do one of those a month, what is that?
Go back. How much? Entry level is how much?
$2,500 for
how long? How much work you gotta do for $2,500?
Look, I'm saying I'm gonna speak for 45 minutes.
Okay. So one more time, 45 minutes. Because you glossing over. Take up space here. Slow it down a little bit for the people. So for 45 minutes of work,
45 minutes,
$2,500 as a first-time new speaker. So we're talking like between 1 and maybe 10 speaking engagements. Your starting price as a non-public speaker is $2,500.
Yes.
Okay, what do I need to do to even position myself? Is there some like talk or lesson? What's that thing?
You need a signature brand and you need a signature talk. And they both should match, right? Like they need to overlap, they need to match, and it needs to be an extension of what you're already doing. Like this is not reinvent the wheel moment. This is be intentional with what you're saying and go tell people this is what you say. That is what the cohort is all about, is helping women realize like we are leaving money on the table. And when I realized, I was like, okay, I am passionate not only for myself to get this thing, but for other women to do the things faster than I did it. Like that's the best thing I could offer is go get paid to speak. Tell people what you speak about and be really intentional that this is a part of your business strategy. And again, thinking that you can add $25,000, $30,000 to your revenue stream without adding additional work, because it doesn't have to be hard to get paid to speak, and it should not be hard. It's a real easy add. It's people you're already talking to anyway.
Listen, and to reinforce that, because I don't think that people always get it. So when we talk about streams of income, and Stacy, listen, you are a superstar today. I want, if this was TikTok, I don't know if you go on TikTok, they always do this to like thank people. So that's my heart for you. Look at me crossing over on platforms. But you said something. I'm converting my higher ticket packages, but just starting with lower ticket offers and want to be strategic with that. Okay. So
I got it, but you could go first. I got a thing. You probably got a thing too.
Right. So I want to talk about like this multidimensional framework. So one, all businesses have multiple streams of revenue. Mm-hmm. All businesses should have systems. And so I want to start with converting. And I've had this conversation. I want y'all to know that like things are seasonal. And so many people have reached out to me in the last month talking about, I got this high ticket, it may not be converting, but I don't want to reduce the price because I'm not going to reduce the work. So one of the things that I lean into with every single client is productization. Okay. What can we take that what you're doing and turn it to some form of a product that you can then add to your program that takes time off your plate? And it's just like a habitual thing. So for example, with you, with content creation, one of the things we would talk about is like, what is the ebook, workbook, checklist that is a level of redundancy that doesn't require you be in the room? So what's something I can independently research, digest, turn it to something else that doesn't require that you have to tell it to me? Then we roll through and figure out like what really is the best part of Stacy in this, and what can we take out of Stacy's brain and turn it into a product? So yes, being very intentional about productization and making sure these are things you can separately monetize, right? Because we all love a good down sell. We all love a good opportunity to make money differently. But understanding, like I said, that first piece with my clients, we spend, sometimes 3 or 4 weeks on the back end of their business because they have no processes, they have no systems. They can't confidently tell me from A to Z, if you are booking people speaking gigs, what's that first step? Walk me through it. Put that on paper. Okay, we've tested this. Well, what works really well? What can we hire somebody to do in your absence? Can we hire somebody to send out those emails? Can we hire somebody to send out those messages, those follow-ups? Can we get an automation? Where are you in your business to take things off your plate? Because year 2 is burnout year. Year 2 is a year where you have finally thought out of that like delusional optimism and you realize that owning a business takes work, right? And that's usually when people are like, I'm not making as much money as I thought I would. I don't know how I continue on this path. And most people around somewhere between 16 to 30 months are in the midst of a rebrand, which is excellent. And so how do we narrow this down to me from a monetization perspective? So where are your clients? What are they doing? Is what you're selling matching your branding, right? How do we make sure that your brand is personal, but we depersonalize the process for you so that you can just show up and you're sharing that same value all the time? And I would say, like I heard you talk about how you're redoing your banner, you're redoing your headline. That's excellent. But I would love to have a deeper conversation about what you're rebranding that to, and how do we make sure that at least for the next 12 months, you're consistently growing your audience, okay? You're consistently creating relationships that matter to you, and you're consistently maxed out on impact, I want you to be so blindly proud of yourself that when people ask you what you do, this sunshine eternally spits out at people all the time, because you know how like loving you feel about yourself because you do this work. That's the goal.
Yes. I love she just asked a question. She's leaning towards an ecosystem approach, which I agree, and a value ladder approach system. So Stacy, no, please ask all your questions. This is what I said. This is the I care content. We care today. So what I will say is I don't know what your definition of high ticket is. I think, right, like that's very industry specific. High ticket for some people is $100,000. High ticket for other people is 5,000. What I will say is start with the people who already know you. So one of the shortcomings of business ownership, and I ran into this a little earlier, I think, is you should be redirecting those high ticket people into those productization things that Chanel talked about, right? Like the easiest consumer is the one you already have. So once they have purchased from you, the likelihood of them purchasing again, what is it, like 80% or something like that?
Yeah.
What can you already offer them that is lower or an extension of the work that you already do? Like I have retainers for a couple of clients simply because they loved the work that they did with me in the intensive. And they were like, all right, Sybil's intensive is this, retainer, lower fee, but I know I can call her between the hours of, noon and 4 and get my immediate urgent, Q&A or whatever. So when you're thinking about that, that's a real easy lower ticket thing that you don't have to recreate. I think so often as entrepreneurs, we get shiny toy syndrome, not realizing that we should continue to sell the thing that's already selling. And so if your high ticket thing is already selling, I would figure out, to what Chanel just said, repackage and then extend. That way you don't have to reinvent the thing because it's already working, and build your systems, your values around that, and then create your content from that, and then rebrand as the thing that has already been selling and working, and leave the other stuff for the other people. Like you want to lean into your 20% that people already want.
Yeah. And be okay with testing. I know that we're all in like, money mode. This is like sales season for service providers between Q4 and Q1 that you should expect. So when you're setting your goal, anybody who's in the sound of my voice, if you're a service provider and you're setting your goal, in Q4, your goal should be at least 6 figures a quarter. Start there. I'm confidently telling you that you should plan to make between now and the end of the year, and your goal has to start at, let's just call it $50,000 a month. Where can you get $50,000 from? This is when you can have your 6-figure business, and this is something people don't know. You can have your 6-figure business in a quarter. I have clients who work 6 months out of the year, October through December, and then January through March. March, April, May, they shift from the service-based products into downloadables, courses. Over the summer, it's the same thing, but this is what they do. Let's talk about systemization. This is what we work on. They are, from January to March, they are connecting, engaging with as many people as possible, because if they have relationship buyers, by the time March, April, May, comes around, they're selling people maybe not into their program, but into something, so that when they come back around, when summer's over in September, their conversion rate is super high. In October, they're in full swing. So you don't have to be deeply selling over the summer your service. By that time, we can come up with a toolkit, a package, or something that people can just fall in love with, that you can sell. That's a lower ticket item. Sale based on season, right? So right now, what's your Black Friday offer? I talk to Sybil about this. I talk to anybody about this. Systemizing your sales process will save you so much trouble. And your sales goal in January, February, March is not your same as in July. Maybe July is your 10K month. You just want to sell one person, right? 2 people. But then October, November, December is 50,000, right? Like people think about sales goals and revenue and monetization as in like this flat every month, that's your goal. But sales is seasonal. You are not going to get as many people to buy your shoveling plan in July as you will in November.
Yep.
Right. But you're also not getting people to buy lawn care in January as you will, snow removal. So you have to figure out what your seasonality is and make sure you're selling snow blowers when people need them at a premium, right? And at a discount in the summertime.
Yep. And the same thing goes even in the speaking cycle. I tell people all the time, like, I'm already booked through March because I started selling speaking back in July and August. So even though I didn't speak at all these last couple of months, I was still nurturing the stages that I knew I was going to eventually be on next year. And so again, it's about like figuring out that thing. Oh, thank you so much, Stacey. It's about figuring out that thing so that when those seasons ebb and flows, you have something to backfill for those off seasons, quote unquote off seasons. So speaking is tapering off. That means it's time to rev up in the other area that my business is flourishing in, and being able to balance the two, I think, is just so key. Wow, I can't believe we did this thing a whole action now.
It's easy. Well, I'll start the ending for me and jump right into this. So first, I want to make sure I take up space and thank you for sharing your audience with me and allowing me to get to know all the wonderful people who have been signed on today. It's not lost on me that you could be doing something else for an hour. So I truly appreciate everyone who has been here today, and especially you for sharing your space. Who I am. Again, my name is Chanel Rose. That's my real name. I specialize in sales and visibility. Behind the scenes, what I do is teach you how to systemize your sales. And what that systemization includes is understanding what makes you money, how it makes you money, how we can turn that into a revenue generating system so that your business can begin to make money on its own so that you can just operate inside of your zone of genius. And each and every day when I work with businesses and business owners, I train them on sales from the perspective of how do I do this in a way that becomes easy. And a lot of people's friction is thinking that money has to be this hard, arduous, frustrating, embarrassing, pitch slappy process. But sales should be fun. If you're selling something that you believe in, you sell something that you understand in an audience, a community of people who need it, it's easy. So if you're interested, and when I say easy, I don't mean without work. I mean that, like, for you, you don't feel friction about it. Yeah. If you're interested in having friction-free funds, right? And you just want to make more money and not feel so bogged down, I'm your girl. I will drop the link to my calendar here, and I'll personally reach out to everyone who RSVP'd today to see how I can provide value. But sincerely, if you are looking for sales strategy and sales systemization, I'm your girl.
Thank you so much, Chanel. And ladies, y'all already know. Gentlemen, thank you for being on the call. Add value for everyone. You already know I only work with female founders who are interested in building global brands. And global does not mean you got to be on every continent. Global might be global for your audience, or global for the stages you want to be on, or global for your local community. So whatever that looks like for you, that is what the cohort is about. 12 slots, because I really believe that, doing everything with intention, especially as we wrap out the year, there is no excuse for y'all not to start getting pre-booked to run your mouth. I tell people my favorite job is getting paid to run my mouth. I was going to do it anyway. But getting pre-booked and to be able to add 6 figures or more in revenue, doing what it is you already do, doing what you're already passionate about, and following systems that are not made up, right? Like, y'all, I didn't have time to make up stuff because I did the thing. And I was in Business Insider with 1,500 followers, whereas there's 40,000 followers on this other person, and they can't figure out how to get the visibility that they desire for their brand. So if that is you, definitely reach out to me. Cohort starts in a couple of weeks. People are like, October 15th. The cohort launches on October 15th. You want to be in the room. Who knows? I might even invite Chanel on the other side to come talk to y'all some more on the other side of the cohort. But really, really wanting to make sure that we continue to add value. Next week, I am bringing in a LinkedIn marketing specialist. So y'all, this woman is a LinkedIn powerhouse. Week after week, we are going to continue to build on this thing to make sure y'all are set up for success. Any last minute questions before we log off? I know we're like 4 minutes, 5 minutes over.
Yes, I know we are. But again, thank you all. And I said I was going to drop the link to my calendar. I should do that. As promised. Otherwise, I know there's always people who watch the replay. If you watch the replay, like, please feel free to hashtag replay. You can add us. We do get those comments. We're happy to answer those questions. But I do have another meeting. I realize that we are 5 minutes over. So I want to thank you all for your time, and just really want to say that again, I appreciate you, and we will chat with you all later.
Thank you, ladies. See y'all on the other side. Bye.
Bye.